Hey there, Business for Unicorns podcast listeners. This is Mark, and I'm here to tell you about an awesome free resource on businessforunicorns.com. If you ever find yourself feeling frustrated with your training gym because you know that there are all sorts of things you could work on, but you're not really sure how to prioritize, you don't know what's the most important thing to work on or what order you should be tackling your priorities, well, now is the time to go to businessforunicorns.com, click the button, and fill out our free self-assessment. With the Ultimate Training Gym Owner Report Card, you will gain immediate clarity on just where to be focusing your attention to create more positive impact on your community, to drive more revenue and take home income, and to do it all with less stress and more peace of mind. So go to businessofunicorns.com, click the button, fill out that free self-assessment, and start building a business and life you love today.
Hello, fitness business nerds. Welcome to another episode of the Business for Unicorns podcast. And today I'm super excited to have another conversation with Mark Fisher and Pete Dupuis. What's up, gents?
Hello.
I think we need to have a new routine for our intros. You know, maybe we need to come up with some sort of catchphrases or something we share at the front. We'll work on that. I'll put it on the to-do list. But
I like the
today,
awkward silence while Pete and I decide if we're going to cut each other off.
Yeah, we can keep with it.
Game of chicken.
We'll see who's.
I listened to our most recent episode this morning on my ride to work, so I was like, I should listen to what we sound like, and I could feel the discomfort of who goes first.
I think you're projecting
that came.
I feel very comfortable. I feel great about it. I like it.
I feel like our dear listeners are maybe craving that discomfort. Maybe that's why they listen, is they love that moment of just like awkward silence. Yeah.
Well, we delivered today.
And that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for listening, everyone. Check us next week.
This was a whole episode on just how not to start a podcast. Well, let's dive in. Our topic today is actually a really fun one. So we've talked before on this podcast about the importance of having like a quarterly planning meeting for your gym and for your team. And so I think we've already talked a lot about why we think that's important to have like a quarterly meeting pulse where we actually plan the most important things you and your team are going to accomplish every 3 months. But today I wanted to talk about is kind of a nuance of that, which is how to get your team to participate in quarterly planning that gets the most out of your team. It's really how to benefit from the wisdom of the crowd, how to benefit from having multiple opinions and perspectives on your team, and how as a leader we want to squeeze that fruit for all the juice we can, right? We want to make sure that we get every great idea and even every crummy idea out of our team in meetings like that to make sure that we are benefiting from the fact that there are many brains in our organizations that can contribute. So I'll start with Fisher. I'll start with you on this one because I know this is a topic you were excited to talk about, but just talk a little bit about how you think about, even maybe just in the quarterly planning meeting, how do you think about getting the most out of your team in those meetings?
Yeah, I have a highly tactical suggestion for how one crowdsources ideas for their teams. And this sounds ridiculous, but I think it is materially different for everyone to take silent time to write down their ideas or their contributions before bringing them all together. So what I mean is very specifically, let's say hypothetically, you're trying to do something like decide on what a quarterly project might be, what the most important things of the business to work on the next quarter. Unless that is done independently with people putting pen to paper in silence without inadvertently tugging on each other's opinions in a conversation, of which there's a lot of times where conversation is the best vessel for certain types of facilitation. To my mind, it is a materially different experience that allows you to really leverage the wisdom of the crowds precisely because you're encouraging individuals to think independently and not cohesively as a team. And then that allows people to reveal their unbiased thoughts and then for you to crowdsource together to work through, not necessarily suggesting that a training gym should be run by, it's not a democracy, people. I'm not suggesting there needs to be a consensus or whatever has the most votes necessarily needs to be the thing that you do. But I find that to be vastly superior versus just talking through it out loud. So I think that can be used and leveraged a number of different ways in your business when you're working on things together. But I think that particular process is very valuable. And it's one of the reasons why that I'm pretty adamant with our members of our Unicorn Society that it's certainly not wrong to do this on your own, but as soon as you have somebody else on the team, even if it's just one other trainer or a small team, the thought partnering that occurs when other people that have a different vantage point on the business are able to share ideas is much richer and more robust than when one does the same process. Because by definition, after you've thought independently by yourself, when you then go to share it, you're only sharing it with yourself. So you're not getting any of that wisdom of the crowd effect.
Yeah, I think it's really smart, Fisher. And we've both seen this in practice really be helpful to how our team processes information. And for our dear listeners, I mean, what Mark is sharing here is very tactical. It means in the next meeting, when you want to benefit from the wisdom of your team, have them think independently first before you have them think collectively. Have them sit in silence and write down their ideas before they are motivated or biased by the crowd. Right, because you don't want to start a conversation with groupthink. You want to start a conversation with as many divergent ideas as possible in a meeting like a quarterly planning meeting. At least that's not always the best case, but having them think independently and then bring it together will totally change the quality of the ideas generated. So yeah, great idea, Fisher. And Pete, what about you? How do you think about generating the best from your team?
Well, thank you for bringing me into this conversation, because you guys are the two that I would come to for guidance on this. I'll start by admitting that I don't do a very good job of this yet, bringing the entirety of the team in. I do work with our director of performance to set these goals, but I don't necessarily the team as a whole. And I can see the value in doing so, listening to you guys talk it through, both pre-show planning and right here as we go live. I will kind of emphasize that this concept of the pre-planning, I use that a lot in how I talk to my team for individual meetings, and I also use it in how I coach people in Unicorn Society. I spoke with someone today, and they were talking about elevating someone from coach to like a director type role and giving them more management. And they were both on the call, and I could tell that there was a little bit of hesitation on behalf of the employee and not the owner in declaring what it is that they want to do. And for their action items, it said, I want both of you to write down what you believe to be the dream role for this elevating employee. And then I want you guys to set aside 90 minutes to sit down and smash those ideas together. And when there is overlap, well, you know that is 100% going on the to-do list. If you both wrote the same thing down, that's there. But if there's a massive disconnect, then we have a massive disconnect to address. So I think that translates into meetings of this nature, where if you have a 5-person team and you ask for everyone to write down 3 ideas and you end up with 15 different objectives for the year, there is a big disconnect between kind of, even I could argue, company values if we're all potentially rowing in 15 different directions. But if there's 1 or 2 things that click there, they'd be at the top of my list moving forward. So I think for me, this is about taking an action item away from this conversation of saying, all right, John, you and I are really good at this, talking about quarterly and annual goals, these big rocks. And we're pretty good at putting them front and center for staff during team meetings. We're not exceptional about making them feel like they were involved in setting them. And I think that we'd get a lot more engagement and accountability from the team if they felt like they established the goals with us. So this is in the category of things I need to do better. But one thing that I do like that John does is he opens meetings, especially at the start of a new quarter. He steps right up to the marker board and he puts the metrics that we're chasing on the marker board. And we open the meeting with a discussion of these are the new goals that we've kind of outlined as a group. What do these numbers mean to you guys? How would you like us to clarify what we're chasing if we're not being clear enough as it is? So we've got our toe in the water of doing this, but we could be a lot better. I think it's really smart,
Pete. And I think one of the things that you shared that really resonates with me is the idea that this strategy can also be used to get a sense of like how aligned or not is the team on a specific topic. Right. For example, if it was like, if you're creating values or reassessing your values, have everyone think separately first, then bring those individual thoughts together before we talk collectively is a great way to see, oh, cool, did we come up with like 47 different values that we think we should be having? Where is the overlap? How much overlap is there? And then how much is like, what does the gap look like? And I think it's a great way. I mean, I can think of a lot of different ways to apply that. just get a sense of like getting your finger on the pulse of how aligned is a team or not in a specific topic, this strategy could be super valuable. So I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good temperature check for the unity.
I guess what I'll share is maybe just kind of a different tactic to get at the same idea. So if the core topic here is how to get the most out of your team, how to benefit from the wisdom of the crowd, I think one of the things that's really important is to how to establish your team's relationship to failure, right? How to establish as a leader that you really want shitty ideas. How to establish as a leader that you really are cool with a shitty first draft, right? The idea that the first thing that people share does not always have to be their best thinking or a perfect solution, or, that what people can share in meetings is a really dumb, shitty idea they just pulled out of their butt, and that can be useful. Or what people can share is an idea that other people have already said they don't like, but they just feel like sharing it again anyway, right? And I think maybe what I'm getting at tactically is that if you are opening up a dialogue in any meeting with your team that you are treating like a brainstorm, then truly let them understand what you mean by brainstorm. And too often, people treat brainstorms in a way that limits dialogue. And I think the way you make a brainstorm really expansive is by saying, I want all the ideas. I want the ones you've barely thought about. I want the ones that just came to the top of your mind now. I want the ones that are ideas of things that we thought failed in the past. Like, there's no wrong answer in this brainstorm, right? And I think that can be another way of making sure that your team isn't holding back because they're afraid of judgment, or they're afraid of looking stupid, or they're afraid of not having a perfect solution. It's like, no, that's not what this is about. If we're truly crowdsourcing all the ideas, let's crowdsource all of them. But I think they will only know that that's okay if you tell them it's okay. Yeah, is that resonating, Jen? Is that making sense? Yeah.
I'll say also that it's about making them feel safe,
Yep.
knowing that they can swing and miss. And for me, which obviously you just said, but for me, the way to fast track this is to swing and miss myself in their presence. And so I put up a tweet a little while back that seemed to really play well with people, basically bashing the concept of yes men. But I said that, and this isn't hyperbole, 6 out of every 10 things I suggest to John, he shoots down and tells me he's stupid. It's like, no, we're not going to do that. That's a bad idea. That won't work here. And as the owner, instinctually, I'm like, oh, I'm the owner. If I say it's going to work, it's going to work. But the reality is, I need the team to see him say, nope, not it, try again. And with some, I don't know, I'm not sure what the word I'm looking for is, but I need to respond to that in a favorable way. So, you know what? Thank you for the feedback. I'd imagine you're right. You know my operation better than I do in a lot of ways. And say, okay, well, what about this? And maybe I swing and miss on the next one, but they need to know that it's okay to look at the boss and say, I totally disagree. And until they see it in action, you can't just assume
that's huge. I
that
think
they
that's
feel
a
that way.
really great point, Pete. So if we want them to see that it's okay to fail, it's okay to look dumb, it's okay to share a wild idea, it's okay to disagree with the boss, they need to see it. We can model that as leaders. Yeah. Fisher, any other thoughts you have there? Because I know this is a topic that we care a lot about at MFF, about how we create a space where people think it's okay to disagree with you. And what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I strongly second Pete's distinction that is important for the leader to, I wouldn't necessarily suggest you set this up in a performative way, but it is ideal for people to see the leader graciously respond to critical feedback and be able to be essentially overruled, particularly when they have an idea that, by definition, depending on how your business is set up, somebody else might have more insight about. I think on the topic broadly of how we create a safe space for people to feel free to share their ideas, I think one thing that is worth acknowledging is it is very important anytime you get a suggestion that you always close the loop. Because in practice, if you ask for people to give you all their ideas and make it okay if some of them are shitty, some of these ideas will be very shitty. They'll be very bad ideas. They'll be poorly thought out. Now, to be explicit, we're not asking individuals to literally give you ideas that they think are shitty. We're making a safe space. Give us your best ideas, but know in advance some of them won't be good because it would be unreasonable to think they would be. You're new at this. You're maybe new to this team. You're maybe new to this industry, but I want those ideas. And I think it is important that the people that are giving ideas always receive a warm landing, that even if you don't do it, that there is an appreciation and enthusiastic welcoming of the idea, as well as an explanation of here's why we might not be taking that particular idea right now. Because what will happen is very quickly is if people feel like they're giving ideas and they're being dismissed, they will start to clam up. Now, for some individuals, this might be because they don't feel safe. And otherwise, oftentimes it's because they just think it's ineffectual. It's like, well, why bother giving my ideas? Nobody listens to me around here, ... And of course, you have these power hierarchies, these structures in organizations that people are coming in with an assumption that's going to be the case. By definition, the person in the power position, oftentimes, labor will look at management and assume that management, by definition, is a dehumanizing force that's not interested in their ideas. And one other thing I will share is a very specific thing that might be helpful is you also want to highlight if you have the good fortune of having somebody that's very entrepreneurial. A really wonderful problem to have is you might occasionally run into somebody that's actually exhausting because they have so many ideas and it's a mile a minute. And you need to teach them without hashing their melon, you need to teach them that all ideas are in fact a stressor. So if you have an entrepreneurial person with millions of ideas, many of them are bad because they're maybe not good at this yet and they've got thousands of ideas. And frankly, entrepreneurs broadly are. That's kind of the definition of many ideas, most of them bad. I think it's very important to speak directly to this individual so they understand that that's the case. If necessary, give them a structure that allows them to have a container to process their ideas before sharing them with the world. And importantly, the main takeaway for them to feel is that their ideas are welcome, they're wanted, we so badly want them. A very specific example in MFF land, Emily Morris, who is our director of possibilities, is brilliant, and she's so entrepreneurial, and she has so many ideas. And her first 6 months, every day was just burying me and Kyle Post, who's our sales director at the time, with so many ideas. And I think it seems we did a good job of helping her understand, because she's done a remarkable job of really pulling back on just the sheer frequency and stream of suggestions and ideas and thoughts. And I think what's happened is she's not only been able to restrain herself, but I think we as a business did a good job of making sure that that wasn't received as a rejection or dismissal, or I think it was very clear to her, we want your ideas. This is amazing. Please, please, please keep them coming. And we're not going to be able to do all of them because there's only so many hours in the day. But what will happen is, and I've said a version of this to some people in the past, 8 of your ideas might not be workable. 1 of them will be pretty good, and then 1 of them is going to completely change the shape of our business, and it will only come from you because you have a unique vantage point because of who you are as a human and your role in the business. So I beg of you, please give us all of your ideas, and I'll always, let you know in advance why an idea can't be executed on. I'll always explain the reasoning why to help you grow and learn and understand the broader organizational perspective of what we can and can't do. And 1 out of your 10 ideas are likely something that could completely change the shape of our business and be a revolutionary revenue stream that's going to allow us to more meaningfully impact our clients and meaningfully grow the revenue of the business.
Yeah, I think it was a really great example to share, Fisher. So thank you. I think that'll be really useful to our listeners and viewers. There are 2 things I want to pull from there just to highlight in case people missed it. Was the importance of just showing gratitude when people do offer their ideas and suggestions, right? Even if it's a brief moment in a meeting, be like, hey, listen, we just generated 25 ideas for how to solve this problem. And we know that all of them are going to survive, where we're probably going to pick 1 or 2 to play with. So thank you to everyone. It's brilliant that we have so many great minds in this room that we can come up with this many solutions. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then the next thing I think you said very well, Fisher, is then make clear the process by which these will be narrowed down and decided upon. Right? Make transparent when you can how you will go about that by either explaining your perspective on the business as a leader or pointing to, for example, in our quarterly planning meetings, we use a EOS or traction methodology of kind of keep, kill, combined. And we all argue and fight on this list to narrow down our goals for the next quarter. And so that's an example of a process that's very transparent. Everyone knows this list of 50 things on the board is going to be debated over and knocked down till there's just 5 left. And so, you might have some feelings about yours getting knocked off the list, but the methodology is really clear. It's clear that it's not personal, right? As much as you can make something like that clear. So I think those 2 things are huge. Gratitude, clear on the process. I think that those are great takeaways. All right, friends, we're going to leave it there for the day. I feel like there's much more we could say about this, but we're going to leave you wanting more.
Well, I hope you loved today's podcast. And forgive me, I want to remind you one more time, if you haven't already done so, head over to businessofunicorns.com, click the button, and get your free self-assessment, the ultimate training gym owner report card. I promise you, you're going to want to dig into this resource and get the support you need, finding crystal clarity on exactly where you need to be focusing to create a life and a business you love.